everyone. Welcome to the Game 7 Basketball Podcast. This is our first episode. My name is Arman Kumar, and I'm doing this podcast with my good friend and a basketball fanatic himself, Daniel. Say hello.
Daniel Weinberg, to be specific. I'm good, Arban.
Daniel Weinberg. How you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I guess you didn't ask me how I was doing at first, and I said I'm good, but yeah, I'm good anyway.
All right. You knew I was gonna ask that, anyways. So yeah, let's move on to.
To be honest, I didn't, but that's okay.
Let's move into saying a little bit about who we are and how we got into basketball. Daniel, why don't you start it off here?
Yeah, played basketball competitively from grade 2 to grade 11 at a high level, and was a good team player. I wasn't, the best individual, but I was good enough to, add to teams and be a good leader and do good stuff. And I think my perspective is unique because I play with a lot of really great players. And I was okay myself. So I think what set me apart, or what was able to actually lend me some success, was being smart, or not smart, but just thinking through the game, and I think that probably lends well to like a podcast or coaching and stuff like that. So I'm excited for this. This is what I like to do.
And when did you start? When did you start watching? When was your first game, your first playoff series? Around what time?
I remember first playoff series I remember was I was actually out to Bosnia with my family on a Friday night because we were like young kids, and it was the game. I forget if it was I think it was a game 7 when Vince Carter was on New Jersey and he hit that game winner and eliminated us. Like I think it was a year or two after he went from Toronto to New Jersey. So I remember that.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I also remember when I was like 5 or 6 going to a Rapid game against the Celtics, and it was Pierce and stuff. But that's about it. I think your story is a little bit more interesting though, so I think you should get explained.
This is not that interesting. I was never the player that Daniel was, but I became a basketball fan probably when I came to. I went to the middle school that we both went to.
What middle school is that?
Do you want me to say the name? You want me to expose it?
and then I want you to tell everybody our social insurance numbers.
It was a small middle school, and we went there, and yeah, just overall the friends that I made, Daniel included, who wasn't necessarily the best friend at first, but
I hated this guy. I hated this guy badly, man.
But that's how I got into basketball around then, and yeah, just playing that here and there. I remember we were all on that grade 8 team, in Faywood, and yeah, just do things like that. And I remember one of the first. I would always watch games here and there because of my cousins. So I watched Chris Bosh in his earlier years and all that stuff. But I remember the first series where I started following it and I started religiously following it was that Celtics Lakers 2010 series. I think that's when I followed the whole series and really got into basketball then. Yeah.
So and they won in 2000. The Celtics won in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
But my memory's a little shaky.
Yeah, and then I started like kind of following it the season after that, 2008. So the Orlando Magic finals with the Lakers and stuff. I remember, and I was a huge Dwight Howard fan, and yeah.
You were pretty into the NHL too, also.
No, I wasn't.
A little. Well, maybe you just like playing NHL and
yeah, I like playing the video game and arguing with my cousins from Montreal.
I'll give you the one thing I've always given you credit for. Regardless of being an egomaniac, like to a detriment when it comes to being competitive and playing sports. For some reason, you're one of the few people, because I play with tons and tons of people who are great, some just okay, but for some reason you knew how to shoot very well without any instruction, which I was always very curious of. I never understood how that worked, because you weren't a bad athlete. You didn't become a decent one until like grade 11, but when we were in grade 11, but yeah, you always, I don't know what it was. Maybe there was something in the sauce. I'm not sure, but always somebody who understood, good shooter, but somebody who understood basketball almost inherently. I think sometimes you let it get by you because you focus on bullshit numbers and stuff, but personally, I would love to say pretty good basketball mind, especially for somebody who's never been a part of organized basketball. It's pretty. I've always found it impressive. Not to
Thank you.
kiss your ass too much, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. No, I guess it was just like.
And hold on. I'd like to clarify. You said, "Oh, like I'm nowhere close to as good as Daniel." I'm not saying I'm Michael Jordan or something. I was just a nice player. Like I don't know what this guy's talking about, but okay.
You're pretty good. You're pretty good. All right, so let's move into the current situation right now. What's going on in basketball? Yeah, with the NBA, the bubble life, and everything. So, I know both of us have watched. Like, I know you probably watched a little bit less, but we've watched the vlogs and some early videos and early Instagram videos to see how it's been. What do you think about it so far?
I mean, they get paid so much money. Like it's like they were in Guantanamo Bay. I wouldn't feel too bad, but the food looks like shit. I will say that. Other than that, I think obviously Silver and his cohorts put a lot of planning into it. Armand's texting me while we're doing the very professional Armand, but yeah, I mean they put a lot of planning into it, and I think because of it they'll be able to finish the season. That's my gut feeling, and the postseason too. But it is what it is. I don't think it's ideal. Or yourself?
I think it's great so far. Is what I'm seeing. So I know a lot of people were complaining about the food and stuff, but from watching the vlogs and everything, it seems like they have a decent amount of options when they go. Like other than breakfast and stuff, they do still have restaurants that they can get delivery from. And there's some of the top restaurants around Disney World. So I definitely think the food is
is that true?
Has been given a bad name. Yeah, they have access to I think 6 different restaurants that are like.
So then I don't mean to spoil a later topic, but then why is Rashawn Holmes doing Uber Eats then?
I think that was during the sorry, 1 second. I think that was during the quarantine. So every player has to quarantine for like 2-3 days, I think, and then they have their food like chosen for them, delivered to them. Yeah.
I got you. I mean, it's very early for me to be name dropping. I mean, on our first podcast, 10, 12 minutes into the podcast, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I saw my old teammate Nikhil Alexander Walker for the Pelicans. I saw they were bowling. So, I mean, it's not like, if there's a bowling alley on quote-unquote campus, and I think a lot of people saw that video of the barber shop, they built the little makeshift large glass window barber shop, and people were comparing it to the 2K My Player Village, right? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
So, it's not like they're living in a desert that's totally, unpopulated. It seems like pretty good, but not ideal.
It's a resort at the end of the day, right? Like, how much are you going to complain? And I think Giannis said something like, "Oh, I'm not going to complain that my hotel room because it's bigger than the apartment I had growing up," right? So, yeah, at the end of the day, you're at a resort. You do have all these luxuries, and you have all this freedom in terms of going around that Disney campus while there's a pandemic going on, and that's because of these safety precautions and these really intense safety precautions that the NBA has implemented. So yeah, I think there's little room to kind of complain for these players. Obviously they're accustomed to a very luxurious lifestyle, but overall, I think yeah, the NBA's done a great job. So.
What do you think about? So I don't know if this is fake news or not. I'm pretty sure it's not fake news, but there's been talks of, I haven't heard it myself yet, but of pumping in fake fan noise into broadcasts.
I think I heard it. I think I heard it while watching scrimmages and stuff. Like they were kind of. I
hate that idea.
Exaggerated. I loved it, man. So if they were doing it during scrimmages, which I think they were, because it seemed a little louder than it should have been, but I liked it because at the end of the day, they still kept it very subtle, so you don't really notice it, but it adds a background noise where if it wasn't there, I think a lot of people would get bored easily. Right, like the fan noises, the excitement of the actual crowd there when somebody makes a big shot it helps keep everyone a little intrigued. So even if they are faking it, I think keeping it subtle would definitely help the viewing experience for sure.
Definitely not high school basketball or football in the States, but I mean, if you've been to a high school basketball game in Canada, or if you've been to an AAU basketball game in the U.S. or Canada, like you wouldn't be so taken aback by just some quiet.
No, and I have, right? We've all played in situations like that, but definitely in terms of like a viewing experience watching the NBA where you're watching the full game. Like personally,
Yeah,
I think for me and a lot of other people, it does help keep our attention a little bit.
I think everybody would agree if they were able to figure out a way to make it work. Everybody would
Yeah,
probably agree that the perfect and most preferred solution would be to mic the guys up the entire game and just listen to the chitter chatter. But
yeah.
I don't see
One
how
one
that could.
problem one problem they were having, I think they didn't mic the refs, so the whistles and stuff. We weren't hearing that. The scrimmages today, there may have been
Well, you
some
wouldn't want to
problem
put a
with.
microphone right in front of the whistle and just get your ears fucking
Yeah,
taken off.
but you couldn't, or maybe the whistles themselves there was something off about them. But
Yeah.
like whenever there was a foul call or anything, like personally, while I was watching the scrimmages, I was left thinking like, what the hell's going on, right? Couldn't hear anything, so that's definitely something that they need to
Do you think
improve
they
on.
have an? Do you think they have an on-site Secaucus in the bubble?
And
Like
onsite
a
what?
like Secaucus is the location of where the replay center is in the NBA or for the
Yeah,
NBA. Do you think
yeah.
that's on-site?
Oh, ooh.
I
I
feel like
think
they could have it like
I
at
think
press row.
yeah, they definitely could. I have no idea how they're gonna do the replay situation, but it's a pretty easy fix regardless. Like you just have someone on the back, um, like they had it, like they had it before. So it seems like a pretty minute fix.
Uh, Black Lives Matter and the social injustice, civil rights issues that
Yeah,
have come to the forefront in the past couple of months. And the cross section with the NBA is quite interesting because, truthfully, I think it's the single most influential organization or corporation when it comes to matters involving social justice. Not even just black. I think in general. I think if you look at like how, at least with fashion, like the world's biggest and most influential runways pregame for NBA games. You know,
yeah.
they're the most famous
Well,
athletes in the world. What do you mean?
yeah.
What?
It's the most influential runway.
I think so.
Eh, probably
But
not,
it's
but
just
yeah,
because it's so
yeah,
consistent, though. I know what you're saying. It's not like, oh,
yeah,
it's the Super Bowl. I just mean like because every night that they're covering it and there's people paying attention. I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
What do you think about? So they implemented the giving the players the choice to
The
put a
jerseys.
couple right, and then they have. So just to be clear, if people don't know this, they gave guys the options of having certain phrases on the backs of their jerseys, like "Can't Breathe" or "Black Lives Matter," et cetera, stuff along the lines of that. But players
Yeah,
can't do what they want. They have to choose from a preset list, which is worth
yeah,
mentioning. And there was like 10 or 15 phrases, I think. And I think on the court, it will say Black Lives Matter. And for example, the Toronto Raptors on their team bus have Black Lives Matter written on the side of the bus.
yeah.
So
Which is great, obviously, right? Like increasing awareness of the current issues and the social issues going on. But sometimes what some corporations do, and I know this is going to be controversial, but it is our podcast. What sometimes these corporations are doing in response to these social justice awareness efforts feels like virtue signaling sometimes, right?
like phony?
I mean, yeah, it feels like they're doing it to do it, right? It's not
Yeah, I
necessarily
agree.
they didn't necessarily think about the impact that it's going to make. They didn't necessarily think about how that could specifically help disenfranchised communities, but instead
Mm-hmm.
they thought of ways where they look good at the end of the day, where they can continue to make money, continue to take care of their bottom line, while
Mm-hmm.
also having an image and having the kind of appearance of really caring about these issues. The NBA obviously is one of the corporations who does truly care, and I think they've demonstrated that with their not only work this year, but over many years of
With
charitable
NBA
work,
cares.
charitable donations, NBA cares, and even in 2015 when the whole stuff happened with Eric Garner, the NBA was probably
Yeah,
one of
that's
the
a
most
good point
progressive leagues
actually.
with the Black Lives Matter movement at that time, with Colin
Just to
Kaepernick and
clarify,
everything.
if people don't know, and so was it 2015? I don't remember my
I don't
years well.
remember yet. I
Yeah,
think it was
but so
2015.
so right after the murder of Eric Garner, where he was choked to death, a lot of the players from I think all the players from the Miami Heat, well, I forget specifically what they did, but
and I think other teams as well.
They, I think people feel less proud of what the Clippers and I forget who they were playing, but after Donald Sterling was exposed for the last and final time, people weren't very happy about in the manner they chose to protest it, and they thought it was weak. But personally, I remember after Eric Garner being choked and eventually, I mean, he was murdered. I found it really affecting and emotional what the players decided to do, and it was the opposite of what you're saying. Like what a lot of big companies do, just do it to protect their bottom lines. Like it felt really personal. On the other hand, like you have guys like LeBron who are doing the same thing, but with other social justice matters, like with China, having something to say about the protesters, because it was clear to me that it was about protecting his bottom line. And
well, the NBA really like hurt themselves there, and I think that's where a lot of especially right-wing people have a big problem with the NBA, and that's where they call it virtue signaling, where the NBA can make all these statements about the U.S. and the NBA can have all these movements that it backs about American issues and stuff. But the great injustices that are happening in China, and they are happening, and it's obvious to all of us, the NBA refuses to speak out about, right? And that's
I don't know. I felt like at the end of the day, people forget that Adam Silver is an employee of the owners, and his job is to represent the owners. And I thought, even in spite of that, he took a pretty firm stance with China. I mean, maybe in some ways he didn't, because he didn't really have a lot but he didn't back down and say, he didn't agree with the Chinese government, or he didn't
I can't remember what he did say.
I forget, but I do remember that it was fairly neutral, and it was one of those circumstances where being neutral was counter, or it was an opposed stance, or it was a stance opposed to the Chinese government. Yeah. So that's a tough position, because literally your job is to look after your owners, not your owners, the owner's best interest. But I'll ask you this: like, a lot of people thought that regarding COVID-19, like I guess it was the infamous now Utah game and the Sacramento game, that maybe they played each other, or was the next game was Sacramento that night. A lot of people felt like the NBA was more so reactive than proactive when it came to sitting out or taking a break from the season. I personally felt like they did fine, but a lot of people were they felt like the NBA just kind of were copycats and were followers. What did you think of that?
Copycats in what sense?
Like they weren't planning on ending the season or pausing the season.
I remember them being pretty proactive with that, with Ray and Rudy Gobert.
That's how I felt too, but there was a lot of people who disagreed with both of us.
Those people are wrong. The NBA was definitely really early. the NBA got shut down before the Western did. I was throwing classes when
I have a minor breaking news alert. Woj just tweeted. It's Tuesday the 28th of July at 10:25 p.m.
Bless me.
Eric Gordon hurt his ankle earlier today, I believe.
I saw that live. Yeah.
Oh, so how did it look when it happened?
It looked pretty mild. He did roll it slightly, but it looked pretty mild. Like it didn't look like anything serious.
Regardless, test came back negative. Yeah. Thankfully for him and the Rockets, and I will say that I think he's a huge piece for them. So
huge
for them. Yeah.
But if we're I don't know if we should touch on the Rockets right now, but
well, I was gonna say it's a really good transition into. We were hoping to talk about some of our playoff sleepers. Playoff sleepers.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, we discussed maybe each giving one from each conference, like both of us, so 4 teams total. Uh, Houston. I have Houston in the NBA Finals.
You have Houston in the finals, so they're your
Correct.
sleepers from the West.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
First of all, I do think people forgot how unbelievable Russell Westbrook still is.
yeah,
And not that other people's opinions dictate what happens on the court, but um, I mean, athletically, he hasn't lost a step at all. I don't think he's lost really any athleticism or any significant amount of it.
yeah.
He's spectacular, and theoretically speaking, it wouldn't be impossible for him to be the best player on a championship team if you had a loaded team around him. Like you put that on top of Harden and that other group of guys between Covington and Gordon, Austin Rivers, Denwell House, who I love, and Tucker. McLemore's giving them solid minutes. Jeff Green looks okay, who I personally don't trust, but they like. I think the chemistry they have that they've had somewhat quickly, and of course Eric Gordon, who we just talked about. I think their chemistry is really really strong, and I think people forget that maybe forget that Westbrook and Harden were close and teammates in Oklahoma. Like I feel like it's almost like a 2009 Celtics situation where they had great chemistry just really quickly. And if you look at when I look at the Clippers and the
2008.
Lakers,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, you're right about that actually. When I look at the Clippers and the um, it doesn't. I don't feel like either of those teams have any chemistry, and most of the time I wouldn't put too much into that. But there's no even if it was a 1 year dynasty, which some people would say is an oxymoron. I just mean none of the teams are great. There's some really good teams this year, but I think it's a year where forget about the quarantine and the shortened season. I think chemistry is going to go a long way, and I think because there's no great teams. I think chemistry matters a lot. And lastly, I'll just say about Houston. At the time, I mean, if you put it in a vacuum, I think the Capella trade was, I think they got dusted. But when you consider the fact that Morey was just obsessed and was laser focused on, and I think, and D'Antoni as well, and Harden, like they were all focused on playing small ball. So really, like what they got was Covington for free in a sense because they didn't have much use for Capella anyway. So I think they're a force to be reckoned with, and I think people think you can't live and die by the three ball, but I mean, look at Golden State, and they played small ball. I see them going to the finals, and my other sleeper in the West would have to be Portland. I think is awesome.
I think Portland is great. Like Nurk and Collins look really good coming back, but just like the position that they're in right now, they still haven't completely gelled. I did watch their game the other day, and obviously it's just a scrimmage, so I'm not gonna put any weight into it. But I don't think they're gonna gel in time to knock off. If they do make the eighth seed, I don't think they're knocking off the Lakers at all. I also love the Rockets. Yeah, the chemistry is great. I think this is the perfect team for Westbrook and Harden. Like today, I was watching. He's an absolute beast. He's probably the greatest scorer I've ever seen. Like after Durant, probably the greatest scorer
After
I've ever
Kobe,
seen. Better than Kobe for me personally. I think in terms of just pure score, as a basketball player, Kobe. In terms of just purely putting points on the board, I would take Harden at this point.
I think
Um,
really underrated passer too, and,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and offensive creator overall. And
yeah.
definitely,
Could
I don't
just
see him as selfish myself.
yeah, gets a good shot literally at any possession, like he definitely is second to Kevin Durant for me for scoring. But for me personally, in my experience with watching basketball, I realized the importance of offensive rebounding come playoff time. If your team allows too many offensive rebounds and you guys can't rebound properly, I've seen teams get demolished in the playoffs, especially when the speed slows down, pace slows down, and those extra possessions become more valuable. So I definitely don't think this Rockets team is going to be able to beat the big men in LA, the Dwight Howard, AD, JaVale McGee combo. I just don't think they're going to be able to. They're going to be able to out rebound that team. I think AD and Dwight Howard are going to eat the glass. They're going to feast on the rebounds, and it's just going to create too many possessions for the Rockets to overcome. Personally, that's what I think.
And it's a fair argument. I'm not too interested in combating that, even though I
Yeah,
disagree with you, your viewpoint. The one thing I will say though is, I think the worst thing teams can do is to play small ball in spite of whatever their best option is to play offensively. Like for example, uh, you don't think much of Hassan Whiteside, but I saw Portland go with Nurkic and Whiteside together, and if Terry Stotts feels like that's their best lineup for the majority of the game, I think the worst thing you could do against the Rockets is try to match them with smalls if that's not what your team's strengths are. I think, like what
I
you're
agree.
saying, like
Yeah,
if you have two traditional bigs, like a 6'10" and a 7-footer, big strong guys like a Favors and Gobert from a few years ago, or Randolph and Gasol from years before that, like I think the worst thing you can do is sit your better players up to match their size. I think you got to crash offensive boards and put pressure on their on that team to box out and get
yeah.
defensive rebounds, which will be hard. Uh,
Just
my
really slug out the game, slow down the pace,
Yeah.
and I think the Rockets could definitely be beat. But if we want to move on to my sleeper, from the Western Conference,
Mm-hmm.
if I have to pick, like when I was initially thinking about this, it was between the Nuggets and the Mavericks. And I'm gonna lean Mavericks right now. I think Mavericks are a serious sleeper in the West. I think they have that strong a team. I think Luka is that great. I think Porzingis is that great, holding it down in the middle, and then on the outside as well. And then I just think their role players are super underrated. Seth Curry, when he gets going, is I think going to be a very, very, very good starter in this league at the two guard. Jalen
You think he's gonna be a
Brunson,
very good starter?
yeah,
I would say
which
that.
he
I
already
think
is.
he's a competent guard when it comes to playoff time. The guy I think that people sleep on is Delon. I love Delon.
Yes, Delon Wright's great. And then Finney Smith, I'm not huge on, but he can hold it down for them a little bit on the
He's an
defensive end.
Alpha. He's an Alpha Camino,
I like Amino better.
but same kind of player. And I hear what
Yeah,
you're saying. You think
yeah.
he's a little better, and I would agree that Amina's better. But uh, I think they do have Powell is done for the season, if I remember
He's
correctly,
done.
right?
Yeah. Which
And
which is
that's a
kind
big
of a
loss
hit.
for them.
Yeah. But
Uh,
I just think the offense Luka can create gives them as much of an advantage that Harden gives them, right? Just can score every time, not at to that extent, but can score every time down the court. Easy offense. You'll get over 100 points every game. And then the question becomes defensively if they can hold it down. My answer would have been the
Porzingis is
Nuggets,
an
but I still
underrated
have
defender, in my opinion.
he is. Yeah, I agree. I think Porzingis is a fantastic player.
And I agree with you about Dallas in the sense that like, if they can get a healthy Porzingis, so when you have two legitimate superstars, young ones, but real superstars, who have big nuts, like those are not guys who are going to be afraid of big moments. You have Doncic and Porzingis, like
Yeah.
it could be like that Oklahoma City team we were talking about. It's just regardless of whether your guys are young or not, if you have enough great players, it's pretty hard to be slowed down. And in a year like this, where funny things are going to happen, and I feel like they have pretty good chemistry.
Yep.
I,
And
I
right
think
now
that's a
they're
good pick.
and right now they're playing the Clippers in the first round, who I think the Clippers have a lot of things to work out. I
How
think
how's,
I think
how,
I think the
how
Clippers. I
likely
think
is
the
it that they'll play the Clippers though?
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Well, obviously the eighth seed. If they stay out of that, they're ahead of Memphis. I think it's a pretty good shot because I don't think they're going to pass Houston at 6, and I don't think the Clippers are going to fall below the Nuggets at 3. So
yeah.
I think the Clippers are pretty safe at 2, and I think the Mavericks are pretty safe at 7. Obviously things could change, but yeah, I think if they get past the Clippers, then they play the winner of the Rockets versus who is it right now? I think Nuggets. I think they have a pretty good. I think they have a pretty good shot to make the finals if they can get past the Clippers for sure. And then
And,
I
and,
didn't pick. And then I didn't
yeah.
pick the Nug. Yeah, sorry. And then I didn't pick the Nuggets because I just think the Nuggets are. While they're a great team, I just think that their players are a little young, and I don't trust their role players as much at this point.
I would agree with that. Do they still have Monte Morris, or was he one of the guys they traded to
I think they still
Minnesota?
do. They still do. They traded
And they
Beasley.
traded Torrey Craig.
No, they still have Troy
Uh,
Craig too.
are you sure?
They traded Beasley, I think.
Oh, they traded Malik Beasley. You might be just it might have been just him. You might be right.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. I trust Monte Morris
and
as a
Hernan
backup
Gomez.
guard.
Yeah,
I between Morris and Plumlee, I think those guys are really solid.
yeah, those guys are
And
good.
Barton, but yeah, I would agree that they don't have depth. Well, to be honest, I might disagree with you because I think that if they include the young players as backups between Porter Jr. and Bol Bol, like that's your 1 through 5. You have Monte Morris, you have Barton at the other guard, Porter at the other wing, Bol at the other forward, and Mason Plumlee as your backup center. That's 5 guys to me.
But I'm just worried. Like, I don't think they have any wing who can really hold down the LeBrons, the Kawhis, the Paul Georges. I don't think they
Yeah,
have.
they definitely don't have a great perimeter defender.
Yeah, I don't think they
Well,
have. I don't
well,
think they have that
maybe
second guy
Porter
who
Jr.
can.
can do that for them though.
I think they're still gonna be pretty easy. I don't think he's gonna. I think he might not even play in the playoffs. I think they're taking it really
Sure.
slow with him. Yeah, they're taking it real slow, which is good. Which is good.
Who do you like in the East?
The East. So I think there's only 4 teams in the East that can come out. I don't think the Pacers have.
Who's
Well,
your
is
sleeper
Oladipo
though?
back? Is Oladipo back?
No, he's
He
not.
is, right? I think no. I think he's only.
Who's your sleeper?
I think they changed. It's Miami, the Miami Heat, which isn't
Interesting.
much of a sleeper, but I think the Miami Heat. I think the best odds to come out of the East is the Bucks first, then the Raptors, then the Heat.
It's funny. I think they could have had him if they wanted to, but I thought I don't know if he's the GM and Riley's the president, but Alonzo Mourning and Riley, I mean, they had a good chance of getting Gallinari, and I think they didn't go. I think they need.
Yeah,
They were,
I think you're right about that. And then they
and
went, and then
truthfully, I thought that would have put them over the top.
they got Iguodala and Jay Crowder instead.
They got another guy too, didn't they?
I can't. I don't know.
It wasn't anybody particularly impactful if it was somebody, but I mean they've got great depth. I think Kelly Olynyk is extremely underrated. Bam's been great. The young kids have been great.
Myers Leonard is very underrated, in my opinion.
Yep,
I don't like him, but I think he's underrated.
You don't like him?
I think like as a player, I think he's pretty. I think offensively he's a really good player. I think defensively he doesn't give a lot of effort, and he's kind of weak.
I haven't seen that myself. I have seen him try to rebound, and he's huge and strong. I like him as a low post defender. I don't know. I haven't seen him be too soft, so that doesn't scare me when it comes to low post defense. But Winslow is a big loss for them, in my opinion. They traded him to Memphis.
I guess maybe I just didn't watch enough of Winslow, but I never, even when I did watch him, he never stood out to me as a player who had that as much hype as he did this season. Like people talked about him as a really serious trade piece. And I think
personally, I think he's going to be a star, but I think people are starting to give up hope on him. I haven't. I love his game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too big on him, but yeah, they're a really solid team defensively, stacked. Offensively, they got Harrow and Duncan Robinson, and then Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Kendrick Nunn. I mean, it's such a loaded team, and I think if they have a favorable matchup, then they have a really good shot of getting to the finals.
And I think you have to give that organization a lot of credit because specifically, I think a lot of teams were looking at from Virginia last year, Kyle Guy, kind of as the premier spot-up shooter in that draft when it came to specialists. And I don't know which draft Robinson was from, but I do know he's a very young player and he wasn't highly recruited or touted.
Yeah,
when it came,
he's like the first player from like the D3 or something.
Oh, you might be right about that actually.
Yeah.
That's a steal. He's I wouldn't even just say a shooter. I think he's going to be a high level scorer, at least off the bench for a long time. That was a sneaky, really good acquisition and developmental job.
Duncan Robinson?
Yeah.
Oh, he starts for them, I think.
But I'm just saying, like, they got him. That was a great sneaky move. My question for them personally, and I'll ask you, is between Goran Dragic, and Nunn. And I'm forgetting some other guys. I'm sorry, but during the regular season, they did a lot of inconsistency, or had a lot of inconsistency with regards to their substitution patterns because they had so much depth, and they had injuries too. But I think it's one of those circumstances where they're gonna have to like run multiple guys out every single night and figure out who's hot and who's not. And that can be difficult sometimes. They've got a great coach, but it's hard when you don't know exactly what you're getting out of your young guys between Hero and Nunn, and whether you're going to go with them versus Dragic, which they did sometimes. Like it's. I thought Gallinari would have taken them over the top, and I think it's a shame they didn't go and get him. But I mean, we're forgetting Jimmy Butler, who's been great.
Yeah, I think they're holding out on for cap space. I think they're holding out to try to get Oladipo or what's his name, Giannis. I think those are the end of their day plans.
If I were them, I would focus more so on Oladipo.
Dude. Personally, I think Giannis is going to Miami.
Wrong time
because I don't see him winning a championship this year or next year, and I don't see him staying in Milwaukee a lot longer. So I think the amount of teams that are making the cap space for him, I think there is serious interest for him to leave.
Personally, I wouldn't want to build around Giannis.
Come on. Let's not get into this.
Look. Well, I'll make my point quickly. Between like, there's that famous clip of him airballing consecutive free throws, and he's got that. He's got good form. That's a mental block. That's a focus thing, or whether it was in multiple. I think I can remember one, but it might have been multiple times or instances where he's missed wide open dunks because there was one time I always referred to where he was deciding whether or not he wanted to windmill or do like a reverse jam, and missed a. I think.
How are these arguments for why he's not a guy to build around?
Well,
I hear what you're
saying, but with him, I've always you're making a fair point. I think part of it is the reason I'm bringing those instances up is because I think there's a missing level of killer instinct and focus. Like Kobe would never fuck around with the basketball, ever, never ever. For example, like he didn't turn over the ball, he didn't go between the legs, behind the back, Harlem Globetrotters. Like that's knucklehead stuff.
He did it more than Giannis. Kobe did that stuff all the time, man. What are you talking about?
You're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying show off and one, like just doing that stuff for show and for. I think his focus is a little on the. I don't think he's laser focused. I think he's a little immature. As a leader and as a superstar. And I think that's translated into his shooting because he hasn't taken it as seriously as he's needed to. And Toronto, well, look, people can say whatever they want. Toronto played great help defense. They pressured him with and sent a lot of pressure on the ball when Giannis had it in the last season, Eastern Conference Finals. And just guided him by sending him baselining or sending him into the middle where there was multiple defenders and just double and triple teaming him in the lane, and forcing him to make contested shots or jump in pass.
All right, I'm gonna have to step in here. I think we should move on. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere on this.
Look, that's the one thing people can agree on, though. I think people could agree though that. His impact in the playoffs versus the regular season is different.
Oh yeah,
and I think we saw the same thing with Ben Simmons, who has the same problem, which is he can't shoot. When he packed the pin on those,
he's not a perfect player. Like we can agree to that, but to say he's not a superstar right now at this point, I think we can move on there. Let's talk about I think Lou Williams.
Bol. Oh, you want to talk about Lou Williams first?
Have we talked about it? I don't think we did.
Yeah. My take with Lou Williams is like he fucked up, And I love Lou Williams. I've thought he's an all-star caliber player since he was in Toronto, and just didn't get enough playing time and enough attention from the media and analysts at that time. And I thought that was one of the great mistakes, which there have been very few of, that Masai has made, not bringing Lou Williams back, who was happy to stay.
The team improved a lot when Lou Williams left. I think at the time Masai was trying to do a culture change to get away from the ISO ball and focus on defense, which actually did work that season.
With all due respect to DeMar and Kyle, who really only figured it out in the last season they were together, at least DeMar specifically, because Kyle started to play team basketball offensively and started trying a lot harder on defense. That's a discussion for another day, but personally, I think Lou Williams does a good job of scoring out of isolation actions and situations without compromising team offensive flow and ball movement and such. But
he's one of the best scorers. I think he's a better scorer than Kawhi and Paul George. One of the best I've ever seen, just at putting the ball in the hoop.
I wouldn't agree with Paul George. I think he's comparable. I would still choose Paul George as a scorer, but so there's a famous strip club in Atlanta called Magic City.
Yeah.
Not just there, but all over in the States, I think dudes like the food at certain strip clubs. It's, of course, really cheap, but so it wasn't the first time, because I mean, just at first glance, you might think it's ridiculous, but Lou Williams was seen at not King of Diamonds, sorry. What's it called? What's that strip club called? Sorry?
Magic City.
Thank you. In Atlanta. I think it's in Atlanta. Anyway,
Atlanta,
it wouldn't make sense. Sorry?
Atlanta, yeah.
Why is Atlanta close to Orlando?
It actually is, but I don't think that's what that has nothing to do with the name or anything.
No, I was just trying to think of why he was in Atlanta, but I guess that's where his family
I think it was a funeral.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out the geography. Anyway, I get that.
It's pretty close.
There's enough evidence for me to believe that he actually just wanted the wings from Magic, whatever it's called. I can't remember, but he very, very irresponsible and immature, in my personal opinion. I just, I understand. I genuinely do believe he just wanted their wings, but you don't go to a social setting during a pandemic, especially not a nightclub or a strip bar. If he really wanted those wings, he could have sent one of his boys to go and pick up. It's just, I thought that was very immature.
It was stupid. It was irresponsible. He probably should be fined by the Clippers and by the NBA, but it's not something that any of us should obsess about. Like any of us.
What did you think of his interaction with Kendrick Perkins regarding the matter? Did you see that?
I did. What did Perk say?
So what I said, he said he was immature.
Oh, he said that Zion Williamson. Yeah, he's like Zion Williamson.
Yeah,
he was being more immature than Lou Will. I don't think that was that serious of an insult, but again, I don't think it's an issue of maturity. I think he just messed up. I think Lou was just taking our. I'm just gonna quickly get some wings. It's not that serious, and he messed up. It's not great for his teammates. He has to miss 2 actual games. So he should be fined. There should be repercussions.
I don't think it matters.
But it was a mistake. It's not that serious. I don't think it's right to question his maturity. It was
an immature decision, though.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I don't think it makes him an immature guy, but it was an immature.
But I think that's what Perk said, right? Perk said Zion, rookie, is more mature than who will the NBA vet, right?
Yeah, and since we're talking about this, percentage-wise, what do you think the chances are that they're able to finish the season without any of the main superstars going down and affecting people's opinions on whether this season was legitimate or not?
I think
what do you think?
Very, very solid, because there hasn't been a single case inside of the bubble yet, and it's been a very long time, and I'm very surprised that there hasn't been a single case. And I think they can just keep it going. I think their precautions are working, and I think I think it's going to be a smooth season as long as they keep it going, right? This virus
And
isn't traveling in any other way except direct contact, and everyone who is in is everyone who's in has to make sure that they don't have it. So I think that it's a pretty good setup right now.
Armand is a science major, uh, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that the designation of your degree?
Sure, medical science, but yes.
Med-sci, oh, excuse me. But so he's one. I mean, he's not speaking out of his ass. He actually understands the nitty-gritty of this kind of stuff. But I mean, my reaction was, they've got family and friends coming in a week or two. But I think your point is interesting. Like, if it worked the one time, or not the one time, but if the plan worked initially and you're having even less people come, maybe it, like I said, Silver did a lot of planning with his cohorts, and I think I think it'll go on, and people won't feel like it won't be legitimate because of I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. It would be a bummer.
And the precautions are very strict there, right? And so I think there's definitely like making sure that there's not even a chance of a single case. I mean, Rashawn Holmes left to just pick up a delivery order. He left the campus line and he had to be stuck in his room for 10 days, right? So they're being very serious. They're not messing around here.
And I feel like those slip-ups aren't going to happen during the playoffs very much.
Yeah.
And if they do, I think it's going to be guys like J.R. Smith, truthfully.
Yeah. The guys who are like LeBron's not going to go outside to pick up a delivery order, right? So I think
he is going to recruit guys that might go do that, right?
J.R. Smith,
Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee.
Lance isn't even in the bubble. He's in China.
Yeah, you're right about that. Rondo's not a knucklehead. He's more so just hard-headed. Dion Waiters, well, I want to talk about my guy Jonas Valanciunas.
You want to talk? Oh, we talk about JV instead. We'll talk about JV.
I brought up the discussion, or I posed the question to Armand. Who would you like, or who would you rather have for these playoffs, Valanciunas or Embiid? And look, I still said Embiid,
well,
but I think
it was. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think Val is one of the top 5 centers in the league.
Top 5?
Yeah, look, I often I'll have guys at 1A and 1B. It'll be more like a tier rather than top 5, like 5 guys specifically. But I don't think there's 5 centers better than Valanciunas, or there's not a whole lot of players better.
Well, there's definitely Jokic, Embiid, Gobert, and Karl Anthony Towns. I'm definitely putting ahead of him. So he may have an argument at that 5 spot.
Gobert.
No, Gobert for me is in that level, in that top.
I think I would put him a little ahead of Valanciunas and a little bit behind of those other guys.
I'd put him ahead of Karl Anthony Towns for sure. I have him at number 3. I'd have Jokic, then Embiid, then Gobert, and then I'd have Towns, and then maybe like Vucevic. But I would not
have Vucevic ahead of Valanciunas.
Yeah, I think Valanciunas is extremely underrated. I think he gets, out of all the starting centers in the league, I think he gets least credit for how much of an impact he really has. Offensively, he's starting to spread the floor very well. He has a great jump hook. He has good post moves. He has one of the best pump fakes in the NBA, in my opinion, which is never talked about.
And he's one of the all-time. It'll sound silly, but he's one of the great on the floor rim protectors, like guys who are not extremely athletic that just do it unbelievable. Like Tim Duncan was the same way. Of bigs who are just really good at getting
that wingspan, which really. But yeah, even defensively, he's a great.
He's not a liability.
Defender. Yeah, for sure. As a center, he's one of the most. He's underrated in that department. Rebounding, he's a fantastic. Like he's the prototypical center that you would want just to kind of fill out your team, who can just do it all. The Aaron Baines type, but like on a much higher level.
I mean, we're in somewhat of an agreement on Valanciunas. If we have a short amount of time to keep talking, it's going to be a similar conversation. But I think we've both been, and I've been not super impressed because I'm not surprised because I've seen lots of Bol Bol prior to this past week or this past week. But I think we've both been pretty impressed with Bol Bol so far now, or at least with
Oh yeah, for
regards to
sure.
looking towards the future.
Yeah, it's been very. I think everyone around the NBA kind of fan base has been really impressed with what we've seen. When he was drafted, obviously as a prospect, everyone thought, "Holy crap, 7'2". He can handle the ball. He can pass the ball. He can shoot the ball. He kind of gave us KD, Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant comparisons and reminders. But the injury concerns, him falling to like I think it was pick 44. A lot of people have been kind of off him and haven't really been paying attention to him. And then him showing up and just starting his first game back and having that fantastic game where he showed his complete arsenal. Everyone's starting to realize, okay, now we're starting to remember who this guy really was, why he was such a important, sorry, why he was such a popular prospect at the time, and starting to see what he could really become on this Nuggets team.
And he's a legit 7'3". I don't think I've ever seen anybody, let alone as a big man. I don't think I've ever seen anybody pin, like, it's really hard to block shots when you're not in help defense and you're coming over from the weak side. Like, it's really hard to block the guy you're guarding shot, especially when uh, you're between them and the basket. And I think he was coming from behind, but still blocking the guy you're guarding shot is extremely difficult. He pinned his guy. I forget who it was. Pinned the guy, whoever was taking up against him or trying to finish off at the hoop. Pinned the guy on the glass. Brought the ball up in like a semi-transition scenario by himself. Had a little hesitation, stand him up dribble, and shot off. Then shot off the dribble from a couple steps beyond the arc. Like, it was just really, it shoots with great form, has great ball handling skills. Like, it has really good ball control when it comes to ball handling. Like, I think legitimately he could bring up the ball in a full court setting, even with on ball pressure.
Yeah, and we saw it. He really could handle the ball. He's
he could
a really
really,
nice
and
fit
he can
next to you.
really
Okay,
shoot it too.
yeah,
He might be the first guy where it's like, I always think, even if it's like Brook Lopez has become an awesome catch and shoot shooter, and we'll try
yeah,
to finish up here because we're going a little long. But even him, like, I don't like him staying outside of the key. I like him 15 feet and in from the hoop, just because of how awesome of a low post scorer and offensive rebounder he is, and how strong he is, and in setting on ball screens. If you want to go pick and pop, that's one thing, but a guy like Bol Bol, I I don't mind him on the perimeter. He's that. I mean, he's a point guard in a 7'3" body, and
yeah,
if he can
and
stay healthy.
yeah, for sure. And Brook Lopez is a great comparison because the number one concern with Bol Bol is his health, and what about his health? His foot injury, right? And what's one of the biggest obstacles that Brook Lopez had to overcome? A major foot injury, right? So if if he could overcome that foot injury, which gives so many big men so so which gives so many big men so many problems later on to their careers, and could recover from it and perform at a respectable level like Brook Lopez did, I think Bobo is a very very bright future.
And the good news for Bol Bol is, when you have injuries in areas that are crucial, and again, Armand will be able to speak to this better than I will be by far, but whether it's your hips, your knees, your core, your lower back, even your shoulders and your chest, like when your ankles, when you injure, especially specifically as a big person, when you injure those muscle groups, bones, etc., like that, our connectors, like, have a lot of other limbs and muscles that rely on it to be strong and to stay intact. Like, when a big man hurts his foot, I mean, it's nearly a death sentence. But when you're a guy like Bol Bol, who's people would say he's a stick figure. I would say he's in great shape. Personally, like a foot injury with a guy who's that light and nimble, yeah, I think he has a very good chance to stay healthy, and I'll pat myself on the back, which is something I like to do a lot. I tweeted after last year's draft, in consecutive drafts, 15th overall they got Porter Jr. You said it was 44th overall they got Bol Bol.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So you average that out. They got. I tweeted that night. If those guys are healthy, they got 2 NBA superstars, not all stars, but superstars, like best players on contenders. 1A, 1B, or 1 and 2, like real true superstars. They got 2 of them on average with the 30 overall pick, right? If you add and divide the 2 of them up, on average, those 2 players were picked 30th overall. That's never happened before. So if they can both be healthy, that's it. Like people like to talk about Golden State, like with Curry and Clay and Draymond. This would the GM's name is Tim Connolly. This would be I still think Masai's doing a better job, but man, oh man, that would just be a coup and a half. Oh my goodness.
That way, it would be fantastic. That and obviously all we can do is hope and pray that both players are healthy and are able to have full careers. But we can do nothing but just wait, and time will tell, right?
And you add that on top of Jokic and Jamal Murray, it's just like it's overwhelming. Not a fun thing for other teams to be thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's. I think that's good for this episode. Any final thoughts you want to give to wrap this up?
I don't think we got to it, but they're my championship winner this year. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Raptors fan. Again, I think chemistry matters a lot this year. I think it's a big advantage, and they're probably the best chemistry team in the league.
But that's your pick for the chip. You think the Raptors are going to win it all?
Yeah, I do. Okay, I really do.
And hey, I think they have a really good shot. And obviously, both of us are Raptors fans, and we hope.
This guy, to be honest, people might disagree, but that has nothing to do with it for me. I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. They're a great team.
And I've been saying I think their best player is going to not. I think people are a little too high on Pascal last season and this season. That's besides the point. I think Gasol is going to be their best player.
No, it's going to be Lowry. It's going to be Kyle Lowry.
I like that pick too.
Yeah, but for me, if we're just wrapping it up with our chip winners, I'm taking the Lakers, man. I think top to bottom, I don't see a team that matches up against them. I could beat them. I just don't see. I don't see the Clippers beating them. I don't see the Rockets beating them. I don't see the Bucks beating them. I don't see the Raptors beating them. I think personnel wise, they're the top team, and they should be the favorites in every single series. But that's my pick, and I think with that, we're gonna wrap up this podcast. Thank you to everyone who did listen. This was our first podcast, and we're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys.
The Game 7 basketball podcast with Daniel Weinberg on.